Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today, I'm so stoked to share my conversation with Sal Medrano from Rebuilder with you guys. Rebuilder released Local Support back in August on Iodine Records. Sal talks about realizing other people don't love music, his struggle to form and join bands, how devastating the pandemic was, Iodine stepping up to release Local Support, and a lot more. I have to give a huge shout out to Casey from Iodine Records. I've gotten to meet and work with a lot of excellent people over my 5 years hosting this show, and Casey is one of my favorites. I know every time he reaches out and sends a band my way, they're going to have released an amazing album and just be great human beings to talk to. Sal was an absolute fucking delight, and I hope you guys go give Local Support a spin, and I hope it finds its way onto your favorite albums of the year list. I also want to say thanks for listening. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, make sure you never miss an episode and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. As the Story Grows is on Substack, Patreon, and Discord. Links will be in the show notes. I'd love for you to come hang out. I hope everyone enjoys today's chat with Sal from Rebuilder.
He was like, he's like, I'm all set. And then he just kept talking. And I was like, all right, man, I got shit to do.
Yeah. it's all good, man. Well, I had a cardiologist appointment this morning and I was like, 11 might be okay. It's usually a fast appointment, but doctors, who the fuck knows, right? And I had to Uber. So I was like, whatever. So it's all good. Just we're all old. Everybody has real life shit. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Everyone has shit to do. You know?
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. You're up in Boston.
Yeah. Where are you?
DC.
Okay. Cool. Nice.
Yep. How's life in Boston?
I had to take out my AC out the window because it was just getting too cold. It always takes forever. So I imagine we have very similar weather.
Yeah.
It's just cold now. I mean, it's nice. It's like hoodie weather. So it's cool.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it's fine.
Nice.
How's DC?
DC is great. It's awesome. I mean, as long as you ignore like the politicians, it's a fucking rad city. Like, you just have to ignore the people that don't live here all the time.
I've always had a good time. It's crazy, like driving on the highway. Like when we were on our way to Fest, we obviously had to cut through DC.
Yeah,
and it's just like, well, there's just the Capitol building off the highway, you know. And like every time, like I remember the first time I ever went to like 930 Club. I don't remember who I was with, but like one of the bouncers was like, yeah, don't walk around here by yourself. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's real dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. As much as like DC's improved and like it's nice, there's still spot like the 930 Club. It's like, why is this in the worst neighborhood?
Such a bad neighborhood. That guy was like, yeah, don't go walking around here. I was like, oh, I've never been here. He's like, yeah, well, stay to the club.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, did you grow up in Boston?
I did. Yeah, like Framingham, Massachusetts, which is like half hour from here, is where I grew up. But yeah, I grew up in Framingham, and my aunt still has a flower shop in Brighton, Mass. Okay. And so my parents we would go into Boston all the time. It was just like wasn't a big deal. So I used to just go to tons of shows when I was really young, just because like when I saw that bands were coming through, I was like, I'm going to go to this show. And it was always like a matinee show. So my mom was like, oh, I'll go to the flower shop, hang out with your aunt, and then I'll come pick you up. Nice. But I remember being in school, people were like, we're going to go into Boston. And I was like, okay. And like, it was like a big deal for everybody to go to Boston. I was just like, no, I mean, I go like every weekend.
Yeah. That's so funny. What got you into music?
My dad plays guitar, and my dad was really into like classic rock stuff. My mom was like really into like disco. So that's like the stuff that I kind of heard growing up. Obviously, I was like way more attracted to the rock and roll stuff. Yeah. And my grandfather like was well-known like guitar player in Guatemala. Oh wow. So I grew up in a really musical family, but I couldn't learn guitar. Like my dad tried to teach me guitar, and it just wasn't working. Like and then like my parents put me in like piano lessons, and like I remember the piano teacher like afterwards like had to talk to my parents, and they're like, yeah, he just like, I don't think he cares about this or pays attention, Oh
man.
So like it was always me just like trying to find like what's the thing I'm gonna like to do. And I remember somehow I got sent to a Charles River arts summer camp. Yeah. And there was I still don't really understand what this camp was. I don't know if it still exists today, but like there was a lot of things to choose from in what you can do. So like my mom was like, you should go here. And I think I was like enrolled in like photography, clay making, drums, rock and roll class, and yeah. And then this like sports, like some general sports thing. And like I was terrible at sports, and like I like the clay making thing was fun, but I was bad at it, and like kept bringing home these like really fucked up dumb looking things, and my mom would be like, maybe we don't put this one out. But photography and like drums were like the things I really, really enjoyed. Nice. And I, all the way to high school did photography, like developing my own film and mostly doing black and white and playing drums. Like those are like the two things I did. And I love playing drums. I still do. I think drums is like probably one of the most fun things to play, but there's too much shit. There's just like too much to bring around. I remember the first bands I was ever in constantly talking to our singer and being like, you should do this and you should talk about this, like completely micromanaging the whole situation. And yeah, I think like I just really wanted to like write songs, and like I always enjoyed singing, but I never thought that I was like a good singer, and I didn't really know how to play guitar. So I like started learning to play guitar probably like mid through high school. And I remember being like at my friend's house, and I did like air guitar, and he was like, oh, that's the wrong way. And I was like, that feels like the way you should be holding a guitar. I've always been left-handed, but I'm pretty ambidextrous and stuff. Like drums, I played regular. I never put them the other way. It didn't feel natural that way, and I never even thought to. But a guitar, just like right off the bat, like handing it to me, I was like, oh, it has to be held like this way. And so my friend was like, you're probably play guitar left-handed, which would make sense why I could never pick it up as a kid, because it just didn't feel natural. So then I learned how to play guitar with an upside down guitar and like restrung it. And then like when I was like, okay, like, yeah, this is something that like I like doing. I like finally bought like a left-handed guitar and started writing songs. And from there, like had like made a band with like some of my friends. But like at that point, I started just like going to like a bunch of local shows and seeing a bunch of bands and just being like, I mean, all I wanted to do was be in a band, like so bad, you know. Being in a band is like basically like when you're a kid, you're like, well, this is how I'll make friends and meet girls, which is like partially you'll meet friends.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll meet girls.
No. I had this conversation with someone recently where it was like, yeah, if I had like, you know, I could have dated in high school, but I was like, I want to be in a band and I want to go to shows. And those two things did not line up.
No, not at all. You know, like I remember when I started going to shows trying to get girls that I was in high school with. Like even just ones that were my friend, none I was interested in. I was like, you want to come to this show? And they were just like, not really. It sounds weird that you're going to like this weird VFW hall on like Saturday. Like my grandpa goes there, you know, like it was so strange trying to like convince like friends or other people to come with me to shows. You know, and when I started going, it was like all I wanted to. And luckily, like since you know I started going to so many shows, then I started meeting people at the shows that like liked it, and that kind of became the people I wanted to be around. But yeah, when I would go back to school, it was almost like I'll be there and be like, these people have no fucking idea how cool shit is. Like, you know?
At some point you realize, or I realized, like everybody likes music, but not everybody loves music the same way I do, where I'm just like, let's talk about all these new records. People are like, I don't give a shit.
It's crazy to me when like I meet people and it's generally like older people. Like, so one of the things, like I have so many different things I do for like jobs, but like one of the things that I do is like I fix people's computers because I used to work at the Apple store. And then like I quit because like I like kept touring and doing stuff. And so like, but I like became really good friends with like a lot of the customers. And then like I would, you know, they gave my number around. So it's a thing that like every once in a while I'll go over someone's house and, you know, they're like fucking rich people in the suburbs who have no idea of like punk rock at all. You know, it's like, it's one of those things where like, well, what kind of music do you play? Like the closest thing you can say that they will understand is Green Day or Blink-182.
Right.
And they don't know what those bands sound like, but they're aware that those bands exist.
Right.
So you know, and like, I don't think we sound anything like Green Day, but if you say that, they at least have like some reference, you know, that it's like, oh, this is loud and there's guitars, you know, like they'll understand that pretty much. And it's crazy when there's people who are just like, they're like, well, I mean, I don't really listen to music. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like,
right,
at all? And there's people like, no, like, you know, when I would like set up people's phones and stuff like that, I'd be like, well, and this is how you have like a music library, and you should like, and I'm always like, you should get Spotify because like it's just easier for them to have something that has a catalog of music than like calling me every time they like, and they're like, well, they're like, when I want to listen to music, I have like some CDs I can like put in a CD, but I never really want to. And I'm like, that is crazy to me.
Right.
There is no part of music that like you just like it's crazy for me to think about the times in my life where there isn't music playing.
Right.
You know, it's just like such an important thing. But yeah, I think back and I'm like, I don't think that there's people that love music as like, I mean, there are, but like, you know, the level of how much you like immerse yourself in music and how much you love music, like you're like, oh, that's not like an everyday thing.
Right.
You know?
Right. Not everybody is talking about it all the time with other people. Like I want to. I'm like, what do you mean? You just don't want to talk about new records?
Right. Even just to shit on things.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. You want to talk about that new Green Day single? It's fucking terrible.
Oh, it's so bad, like you can't wait to text somebody about how terrible something is.
Yeah.
And then there's people who are just like, nah, just don't listen to music. And I'm like, that is insanity to me.
Yeah. So funny. Obviously, like Boston had a great scene, and you were going to VFW halls all the time, like a good New England scene. Like, I mean, was it easy to form bands and just like always have people to play with?
I found like it wasn't. And I don't know if it was just like, I think I was like pretty shy at a young age, and I wasn't the most like social person. So I'm like really glad that I found like the punk rock scene, because I think I felt comfortable enough to talk to people. But so I mean, I think I started going. I saw one of my first shows was seeing the Pilfers open up for Save Ferris. And I because I remember I heard Save Ferris, I liked it. I was a big No Doubt fan, so like hearing something else that was like similar, I was like, oh, this is cool too. So I went and saw them, and the Pilfers opened up, and I was like, oh, this band's fucking awesome. And the room was packed. I mean, I had no real gauge on like how big these bands are. I'm just like, oh, there's a lot of people here. This is cool. I'm having fun. Then like, I think it was like a couple weeks later, the Pilfers were playing at Bill's Bar. So I went there, and that was packed as well, but that place only holds like 100 people.
Yeah.
And it had, and one of the bands that opened was a band called Kicked in the Head. So then I like looked and saw, I was like, where's Kicked in the Head playing? And they were doing like VFW halls. So I remember I went to a VFW hall. It was like one of my first shows. I got there like probably like 2 hours early, because I was like, well, I need to buy tickets for this show. And like some kid showed up with like a money box, and like I was like, is this where I buy a ticket for the show? And he was like, yeah, like in an hour you can like give me money. There was like no, like the bands weren't even there yet. And I was like, okay, I'm like only one standing outside this VFW hall. And I like, when I was the first person who paid and got in, and I was like waiting for the masses of people to show up, and the masses of people never showed up. Like 40 kids showed up, and I remember that show like it was yesterday. And it was like, it was Kicked in the Head, $5, the Goonies, and like all these bands that were just like so sick, and it was awesome. And I was like, more people need to know about these bands. How do people not know about Kicked in the Head? So, the more and more I went to shows, I met kids, and I wanted to start a band. But the thing is that like in my high school, there was a couple older kids that were like into like Dropkick Murphys. Like, and this is like, Dropkick Murphys were like probably the biggest Boston band at the time, but like still very small. This is pre-Departed or any of the sports affiliations. And there was a couple kids older than me into them, but like I didn't know them enough to even talk to them. And so there wasn't like any other kids that like were into the things that I was into. There was a couple like high school bands, and they were like classic rock type style bands, like completely the opposite of one I wanted to like start at that age. So it was hard for me to find other kids that wanted to start bands, because my reference point of what I wanted to do and my interests were just kind of not shared amongst people. When it kind of started, when I started playing with people, was after I started, going to all these shows. And then I started like putting on my own shows, because I in my head, when I saw these bands playing, I was like, well, how'd they get this room? And then I went and talked to the kid who like was setting it up with the money box. I was like, how do you do shows here? It's like, oh, you can talk to so-and-so here. It costs like $50 an hour to rent. Okay, cool. So now I know I can like save some money, have enough money, and started emailing bands that I liked them, and like, I'm going to do a show with like 5 bands. I can give you guys like $100 each as a guarantee. At the time, me being like 16, 17 years old, I had no idea that guarantee was like, okay, they'll get the $100 guaranteed, but if we make more, they're going to get more. I never gave them more. I like gave them the money. I gave them like an envelope of $100, And some of those shows did really well. And I was like, cool, we have more money for the next show and I can get more bands. I had no fucking clue. No one ever told me. No one ever even called me out on it. So it was just like, you know, I learned eventually. I was like, oh shit, I might have ripped off all those bands. But, you know, they sold merch and there was a bunch of kids there.
Yeah.
But through doing that, you know, I met other people that were like, oh, you throw shows? I have a band. I'm like, oh, cool. And like when this kid was like, you should join my band. We're looking for, at the time I was like learning to play trombone. I had no idea how to play trombone, but I had one. And this kid was like, you should join our band. We're looking for a trombone player. And I was like, well, I don't know how to play. And he was like, it's fine. Just come, just come, you know? And I did. And I tried out for this band. And it was terrible. And I remember like being there and being like, you know, all I'm trying to do is like branch out, meet other people that want to like start a band. And I was like, well, this didn't go well. And like, I remember when my friend Jason, that was the first time I met this kid, Jason, when he went and dropped me off at home, he was like, all right, I'll pick you up next week. And I was like, yeah, sure. And like, that's how I joined that band, you know, and like that band didn't last any more than 6 months. But after that, you know, we liked our friendship and we knew we wanted to keep playing with each other. So after that ended, we started a band where I still played drums and he played guitar, and we tried to find other people. We found some bands, like we hit up some kids from like bands that had broken up that we had liked and been like, why'd you guys break up? Oh, so-and-so doesn't want to be in the band anymore, but we still want to play. All right, cool. Do you want to join our band? We did that band. That band was called like Knockout Kings. It didn't do anything. It was around for like a year. And then like, I convinced everyone should kick out our singer because I was like, I want to sing in the band. And then we kicked out our singer. We found a different drummer. That band became Dead Ellington. And then Dead Ellington had different iterations for the next like 8 years or so. And there was times where that band didn't exist. There was times it did exist, but like that was the only thing I did. And it was me and like my best friend, Jason. And then Jason moved to California and was very adamant that I could not do the band anymore without him. And that band really was like, I put all my effort into that band, and I wanted that band to tour. I wanted that band to open stuff up. And I was like, in my head, I was like, well, we have to be like a punk rock band. Like we were writing songs, like some songs were like, oh, this is like a Lawrence Arms ripoff. This is like this is a Pennywise ripoff. This is like a Wilhelm Scream type style stuff. And I only sang in that band. I didn't play guitar because the other guitar players we had were really good. But it was just like, I think that band was like, didn't really have an audience. Like we never really had big or great shows. So when my friend moved away, at that point, I like went to the other guys and was like, I'm making a new band. I'm going to play guitar and sing. It's going to be called Rebuilder. I don't know if you guys want to be in it, but right off the bat, we were like given a chance where we could open for Dropkick Murphys at House of Blues, because I'd asked every year if Dead Ellington could, and I'd kind of worked on and off for that band. And then Ken Casey had said that we could open the next one, but I wasn't going to tell him that like the band was like going away or breaking up.
Yeah.
So I always kind of had this ticket of like, this is a very, very cool show to play. And Craig was like, who was playing drums in Dead Ellington, was like, yeah, I'll be in it, but I want to play guitar as well. And I was like, great, awesome, because I'm not very good at guitar. And Daniel wanted to be in it because it would be something that he'd be in from the start, rather than when he joined Dead Ellington, it was just because he knew that we had like some shows coming up and we had a tour and he wanted to tour, but he was never part of those songs. Those songs were around for so long by the time he joined. And then Brandon, who plays drums in Rebuilder, he had played guitar, and he was like, I think he was moving too, but he ended up not moving. So I ended up just asking him if he wanted to like be in the band. And that was kind of like the core four of us. Like we had already played together for like a couple of years at that point in Dead Ellington, so making Rebuilder was really easy. And we always had that show to look forward to, and then we did that show, and then we did a Dead Milkman show in May right after that March show, and it was like we were automatically getting shows that were way better than anything we had gotten in Dead Ellington. So it was like, okay, people seem to like this more right off the bat. I'm no longer trying to write very generic punk rock songs. I'm kind of just like, I'm just going to write whatever songs I want to write. And if they're bad, then they're bad. Like, who cares? Like, you know, like I'll get better at guitar, I hope, you know, and we'll just do it that way. So it's crazy because like, I really didn't have a string of a lot of bands. It was just like Knockout Kings, Dead Ellington, Rebuilder. And it was almost the same people I always played with kind of through and through.
Yeah. Just kind of a continuing evolution.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, you know, I generally don't even tell people this because it's the most like fucking snobbiest bullshit. But like, I went to music school. I went to Berklee College of Music, and I hated it. But I went there with the intention of being like, well, I'm going to go there and meet people that want to take a career in playing music seriously. I was like, these guys that I'm playing with are my friends, but like they don't want a music career like I want a music career. And I remember getting there and like I didn't live there. I tried and like didn't have housing available right away. It was going to be too expensive. I wanted to defer for a year. My mom was like, there's no way you're deferring for a year. You're like, you have to go. So I started commuting from home. It's like half hour away and an hour probably by train ride. And there was like classes where I was like, okay, I have a 9 a.m. class and then I have a 4 p.m. class. It's like, what do I do at this time in the middle? I don't even live here, so I don't know any of the people here. I'm way too shy to talk to people. And when I did meet people, like I didn't find anyone that was into the music I liked. You know, like there's a lot of metalheads and a lot of like jazz kids and like classical kids. The whole time I was there, I was just like, you know, I was always searching for like, oh, there's got to be other kids here that want to do what I want to do. And I never found them. You know, it was always like, yeah, the people that I will be playing music with are going to be the people that I've been friends with this whole time, you know, and that's always how it evolves. So yeah, it you know, a long way to get to your question, but like, yeah, I didn't think it was easy finding people to play with.
Yeah. I imagine if you go to Berklee, you're not really interested in playing 4 chords really fast.
Right. And that's the thing is that they weren't interested in that. And, you know, I was always really good at the business part of it just because since I started selling merch for bands early on, I was always dealing with the money, you know, I was, as those bands started getting bigger, it was like, well, you have to settle with the house. You have to like settle merch cuts and you have, you know, and then like bands that were like way too drunk and partying. I was like, did you guys make sure we got paid from the show tonight? And they're like, no, I'll go settle, you know. Now I'm settling with the promoter and I'm like 17, you know, so it's like, I learned very early on how the money worked. And like at that time, Dropkick was getting a lot bigger and my friend became their merch guy and he needed help with it whenever it was close by or in Boston or stuff like that. So I learned a lot through there too, because it was like, well, now I'm seeing a band that's like, you know, they were already playing big rooms, but now they're like, you know, the merch numbers are no longer, yeah, we made $1,000 in merch a night. Now it's like tens and $20,000 nights, you know, and you just see it's like you. For me, I was always like, how does this work? How does this make money? How do these people do this? Like, you know, it's still like, I'm always still curious whenever I see a band that's a band that tours all the time. I'm like, how do the people in this band make money? There's no way they make money off of the band. Right. I know they don't, you know? So I'm always curious about that still now, because there's not like one common way, you know?
Yeah. I was reading some stuff online before we chatted. It seemed like the pandemic was really hard on you. You weren't sure if this band was going to continue. Like, can you talk to me about like that process and deciding to keep going?
Yeah. I mean, because all I do is music and how I do make money, you know, like I tour as a merch guy. I do merch gigs here. I have my own merchandising company. Because it is literally all I do. When the pandemic hit, you know, me and Daniel were still living together, and we just, you know, and Daniel was also, his job was working in some of the music venues. So our jobs disappeared, and it was just like, okay, if this is a thing that's going to last a long time and there's like no end in sight, then like our careers are just gone right now, which was like a lot to deal with, you know? And you can only sit around and like try to figure out what to do for so long before you just start getting like really depressed. I remember like I started reading like lighting console manuals because I was like, maybe I have to learn the lighting world. I don't know how much merchandise is going to come back after this, or if it will, you know. I was like, maybe the pay for that will be like so low. I also thought, you know, and I think I might be kind of right about this, but I thought, I was like, when bigger bands start playing again, I don't think they're going to bring out any openers, or if they do, they might only bring out one. And I think that we are still now seeing 2-band package tours that happen rather than like the 4 anymore, you know. And I knew, I was like, I think right off the bat, you're going to see that for people wanting to like have the least amount of people on tour, but it becomes a thing of convenience. I mean, I've worked on a crew that only has like one opening band, or some crews that don't have any opening bands. And you're like, this is so nice that I have an opening band. And like, as someone who like needs that opening band slot, I am very hypocritical, because I'm just like, dude, not having an opening band is so nice, especially if like you're the merch guy. Yeah. And you have to take over the whole merch area. Like, sharing it just sucks because it's like minimal and you have so much shit. So I get it. But yeah, so when the pandemic hit, it was just like, I was like, I don't know. I just don't know what this means for my career. I'm still trying to do computer jobs remotely, and no one needs remote computer help anymore, because everyone's computer company now was like, our IT department is like so souped up now, because now they have to help everybody in the company, and here's the protocol. So no one's trying to find an outside guy to help them. But me and Daniel were living together. We had started the record in January of that year, but in like November, December of the year before, it was kind of like everyone was kind of like really tired of grinding in this band so hard, you know. I think it was like we had a practice, and I was like, all right, so this is what we have coming up, and we had like more stuff. And I think it was like Craig had said that he did not want to be in the band anymore, not for any like bad reasons. He was just like, he's like, you know, he's like, it just takes up a lot of my time, and there's like, I don't have any more songs to really contribute to this band. You know, he's like, I think like he had maybe like even like joined like a local like hockey team, and he was like, you know, I just want to like play hockey on some days now. I don't want to like always have band practice every week. You know, we went from having band practice like twice a week every week, then to like once a week, to like once every 2 weeks, you know. And then like, you know, Brandon, our drummer, was married, and he was like, yeah, I just don't know how much I can commit to it, because like I know that he's like, me and my wife are going to have a kid at some point, you know. Daniel at that point was still like newly sober, had a hard time touring, because he was like, it's hard to like tour and be around this environment when you're no longer trying to partake in it, you know. Yeah. So all those things were really difficult for everyone. And I think at that point, everyone was kind of just like, no one was like, we should break up, but everyone was just like, I don't know where I really see myself with this band. And just take that for what it is. You know, I was like, well, let me tell you what I want to do. So I want to be in a band called Rebuilder that plays music and keeps going, you know. But there's only so much I can do by myself, you know, and I love playing with these guys. And they're my best friends. But, you know, all I've ever wanted to do with my whole entire life is have a music career, you know, and have a band that people like. So I wasn't going to stop doing that. And I remember having, you know, I remember after that conversation, I was like, okay, well, we have like 7 songs. Let's go start recording them because I still want to put out this next record. And it's important to me. I think these songs are really good for us to like not try to put them out. And we had deemed that there was some that were more ready than the other ones. So we went in and only did 5. So we went in and tracked 5. We did like everything for it. And then we would come back with more songs once they were ready so that we could have like a proper full length. And I was like, I don't even know in what capacity we come back with these other songs. I don't know if these are going to be with other people or what, but like, you know, I talked to some people told me I should just end the band and start something new, you know? And I was like, yeah, but this is the thing that I has put all my time into. And this is the one that's worked. It's the one that people are coming out for. It's the one that's like, that has, I think, my favorite songs I've ever written are in this band. And if I were to start another band, immediately in my head, the people that I go to ask to be a part of this band are the people that are already part of this band.
Yeah. Right.
You know? So you know, in having conversations with other people, like I remember Jay Moss was like, he was like, dude, and Jay recorded all of our records. He was in the band Defeater, and he had said to me, he's like, rarely do people find something that they care about so much. Is like, if you really care this much about this, I think that you should do whatever you need to keep it going, you know? So that was kind of my plan. And then pandemic hit, and it was kind of like, as much as it was terrible, it was kind of like a much needed break.
Yeah.
You know, me and Daniel were living together, and we were like still trying to write songs for the future record. But then Daniel moved out. Like, he moved in with his girlfriend. You know, he moved in with her. So now I was here at the house by myself for a while. Eventually they like got engaged and they moved to Maine. So they live in Maine now. But like, you know, like my best friend living with me, and I had my best friend here to like, you know, at least I have him here to like hang out and do shit with, you know, when there's nothing going on. And then him leaving during it was like, oh, well, fuck, now I really am by myself, you know, like my girlfriend lives in Providence, so we would hang out, but we had to like still be careful about like, you know, have we been around anyone, you know, and stuff like that. I hadn't seen my parents, I hadn't seen my brother. So yeah, during that time, I remember when it became safer to gather, me, Daniel, and Harley from Choke Up started getting together because Brandon was living with his in-laws, so he couldn't come down and play drums with us. But Harley was like free and like didn't have anything going on. So I was like, well, I have these songs. I was like, maybe if we can, let's get these 3 songs done and we can go record them, and then we can tack them onto the 5. It will have a drift, you know, Harley will play drums for those. Brandon will be on the other ones, but like, I think this is how we have to go about making this record. If I want this record to happen, I'm going to have to use other people.
Mm-hmm.
So it became really complicated, just in terms of remembering like who did what. Now looking back, like I was like, okay, me, Daniel, and Harley went in and recorded 3 songs for the record. And we got pretty much everything recorded. And then there was 3 more songs that we didn't do on the original recording of the 5 because they were the ones that we said that weren't ready yet. But I felt they should still be recorded. So then me, Daniel, and Brandon went into the studio, recorded these like additional 3. And this is like all over the span of like almost 2 to 3 years now, because there's like all this time where we can't get together. Then we record Monuments and put the album on the back burner because Monuments was during the Black Lives Matter, like in riots in the streets. So, and I wanted, I was like, what? I wrote this song really quickly about like my commentary on what was going on. And I wanted to raise more money for like Black Lives Matter. So we like went into a different studio that gave us free studio time. Harley played drums. Brandon would have done it, but I think he was like not around that day. So we did that. We released that. And then like a couple months later, a friend of ours like had like a brain injury. So we wanted to raise money for that. So we recorded one of his band songs at a different studio again that gave us like some cheap time. Brandon happened to be free that day, but he was like he hadn't been at practices with us, so he came in to play guitar. And then even during all of this time, we run into Craig, and he was like, "I really like that Monument song that come out. I wish I could have like played on it." And I was like, "I thought you like didn't want to." And he was like, he was like, "No, I mean, it's different now. Like we haven't even played with each other in so long, and there's like all this time." And I was like, "Okay." So like, then because even during all of this, it's crazy to think like during a pandemic, we were like so busy doing things when you look at the amount of stuff that we did during it. And I think it was just like a way for me to like not just sit and be dormant, because all these live streams came out and people were like, "Is Rebuilder going to do a live stream?" I was like, "Absolutely not." You see these live streams, they all look fucking terrible. They look bad or sound bad. And if they look good, you're a huge band,
Right.
So we figured out how to do one. It would still cost us a good amount of money, but I was like, we should charge admission for it. Like it's an event. If you make it an event, people will care more. If it's free on Facebook, people care less, So we did that, and that was the idea of doing that. And then it was just one of those things. Like, I think I just texted everyone, and I was like, "Hey, this is a thing that me and Daniel want to do, this live stream. Who wants to be a part of it?" Craig and Brandon were like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. That sounds awesome. We definitely want to be a part of that." We had like even like done some dumb videos for like some Boston website that wanted us doing like a cover of something. And I got this kid, Matt Spence, played with us. He still plays with us sometimes if Craig can't make a show. Matt Spence used to play in a band called Stereo State. He plays in Love Letter with J Moss now, but he's a great guitar player, great guy, like likes the band a lot. So I would ask him to jump in, and I was like, okay, cool. Like if Craig can't do this live set, I'll just ask Matt, and it'll still happen. And it's one of those things where it's like, when you're an adult, I think you being able to be like, yeah, I really want to make this happen, but I can't because I have commitments other places.
Yeah.
You guys do what you want to do. It's way easier than when you're in your 20s and you're like, someone's going to fucking play that show. You're going to find someone else to fucking play that show. It's like I think you get a lot offended way easier when you're younger.
Yeah.
And I think, once we kind of made it where it was like, you know what, like this band's going to happen. There's people that care about this band that jump in to help. but the four of us is always what we always want. That is what we want on the stage. That's what we want to record with. That's what we want to be there with. And, it's like, it's literally simple. It's just like, we got offered this show. Who's around to do it? You guys want to do it? Should we do it? Everyone's in. No one's like not a part of the band anymore. If anything, it's just grown bigger because now Harley plays a lot with us. Like Harley just did Fest with us, and anything kind of out of state, like he's almost like my first one to ask. We just did this West Coast tour, and Rick, who was our original keyboard player, came in and played. Steve, who played drums in the band The Have Nots, we haven't played with him in a really long time because we play in Boston way less than we used to. But Steve played a couple shows with us, and I wish I had more shows to give him for him to play with because he's a great drummer. But he's someone that likes the band, and I can always hit him up to play. And it was always like a thing for me. I was like, how is it going to be as good? And it's like, I don't know, it just might just be different. And I always remember someone telling me, a friend of mine was when I never saw Fugazi, but he saw Fugazi, and he was like, there was a show where he saw Fugazi playing Western Mass, and Guy on the mic was said something like he couldn't sing. He was holding his throat. He's like, I can't sing today. So Ian sang all his songs, and he was like, it was incredible to hear him sing. And I was like, damn, that's so fucking cool, But it's like you wouldn't have gotten that moment, if it didn't change just for a sec. So yeah. But luckily we came out of it with, I think, a very, very strong record because we were able to take our time with it. A lot of people were able to contribute to it. It was the first time where I had to kind of I wrote songs on my own and had to commit to how I want these songs to go rather than me and Craig writing every song together. That's typically what we did is here's my song. He would have comments on it and we'd make changes. He would bring his song. I would make comments and make changes. Some of them we wrote together. But on this, Craig has 2 songs, which I think are 2 of the strongest that he's ever written. And then the other ones were all songs I wrote. Luckily, we hadn't finished the record by the time he started playing with us again. So I was like, well, we have almost all the tracks recorded in terms of the main parts. So I was like, do you want to go in? I sent him all the songs. These are all the songs. Why don't you think of guitar parts that can be added onto this to make it sound better? I did second guitar parts on it already, but yours will probably sound better if you do it. So we'll just do it over with your guitar parts, and you should harmonize with me on any songs that you think need harmonies. So when you listen to it, it does feel like, a classic Rebuilder style song because Craig is still there on every song in some capacity, even though he may have not had a hand in writing these songs from the beginning.
I just wanna stay up late. You can talk while the record plays. We can let the sun up. We can let the sun up. I just wanna stay up late. You can talk while the record plays. We can let the sun up. We can let the sun up. We can sit on top of cars like we were kids underneath the stars. Why we have to grow up? We don't have to grow up.
Back in May, you guys announced you'd signed with Ed Records. Obviously, shit with Justin went down, and most of the bands left that label. Was that just a kick in the nuts where you're like, fuck, we finally reached this level, and now we back to being without a label, or we have to make this choice to stand true to our convictions?
It sucked so much just because I felt I was of course this would happen, right when we have good things going for us. It's typical bullshit that happens with us all the time. But it was obviously it was a terrible thing that happened. for all parties involved. But right when I saw it, it kind of didn't really even hit me that right away, because like that's the thing, is like behind the scenes of it, you know, it was always Chris Stowe who ran the label.
Yeah.
You know, none of the guys in Anti-Flag ever really had a part of doing anything with the label, except for like using it to release AF stuff that they wanted to release on their own, or just suggesting and being like I remember talking to Justin when we opened up for Anti-Flag at Brighton Music Hall, and I was like, yeah, we have a new record. I'll send it to you. And he was like, yeah. He's like, I would love to have you guys do AF, and that was like kind of the extent of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I can connect you to Stowe. And I was like, we've known Stowe for years. I was like, he already told me that he'd be interested in putting it out. And it wasn't like AF wasn't like where I wanted this record to be on. That was the other thing. It's like, it wasn't like it was like my dream to have a record on AF. I hit up like all the other, like for me, I was like, if we can get a label that has like a staff of people that come into work every day and their job is to work your record, that is where I want to be. So I tried Pure Noise. Pure Noise didn't want it. Sent it to Fat and Epitaph. Obviously, I knew they weren't going to respond, but you got to try anyway. So I sent it over. Never heard anything back from them. I think I even sent it to like Merge and Sub Pop and all those. And I was like, maybe, I don't know, fucking.
You're just trying,
trying. What if like Merge was like, this is fucking great, we want to put it out? I'd be like, yeah, this is awesome. Fuck yeah, like that's like who I wanted to put these things out. But when I didn't hear back from any of them, I was like, okay, well now we have to go to the one man operations, and like I knew Say 10 wanted it, Asbestos and AF, and all of those were great, I just felt like I was like, well, like Asbestos is great and I love Matt Flood, but like it's a ska label. There's a lot, and like I don't know, it's like especially some of the bands that are on there, like I don't really fuck with in the ska world. So like I was just like, I don't know. I don't think that's like the right place for us. I like Say 10. I've always liked that label, but I felt that AF had a stronger presence at Fest where we always did well. Yeah. And Dead Bars had done AF, and so didn't Spanish Love Songs. And both of them were, it's like, it doesn't blow up your band, but it does give you a little boost with those Fest crowd. Mm-hmm. And the biggest incentive is that they have the record club. So 100 of your records automatically get sold to the record club. So I was like, okay, we have 500 records. If 100 of those are automatically sold, then that's great. That means there's like 400 to find homes for. So that is why we went with the label, and it was like, and I even remember when I announced that we had signed to AF, so many people reached out to be like, congratulations, which is nice of people to do. But I was so confused because I was just like, this feels like not like a congratulations moment. Like we didn't get like, we're not like on like Warner or Sony. It's not like we got a huge advance or anything like that. And as someone who like always makes fun of the music business a lot, I was like, damn, people really don't fucking understand how this shit works. Like, it's just like, I remember I didn't know how to respond to people. So my response every single time someone said, hey man, congratulations on the AF, I would say, thank you. They gave us $1 million advance every single time. And people were just like, that's amazing. Like there was like very few people that were like, that's not right, but like general people like were like, that's unreal, you know? And like, they really saw it as this like huge triumphant accomplishment where, and I was just like, they're just like the ones that like kind of like wanted to put it out, like, right. And it was the easiest course of action for me because I knew that they would just put it out. I know Stowe's a good person, but like, like they didn't want to fucking pay for the PR that I wanted for it. So I paid for it. I paid for the recording of the record too. Or like, well, like Rebuilder did, like we had money from other shows that we had done, but like, like we covered so much of it that like the only thing they paid for was the pressing of the record. And I was fine with it. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm happy I'm not like a struggling 20-year-old anymore, because then I'd be like, there's no way we could put out this record. Or I'd be like, you guys have to pay for everything. But like when they didn't want to pay for shit, I was just like, okay, whatever, I'll just pay for it.
Yeah.
And they would be like, are you sure? I mean, it's really expensive to do that. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's fine. I have money from working jobs. So like I'm fine. So, we could have just put it out on our own. That was the other thing too. It's just like, I was like, I mean, we can just pay for this record. It can just come out on our own thing, which we would have done.
Yeah.
But I was just like, well, I mean, it's just nice that AF is going to get rid of 100 records right off the bat, and like the fast kids will think it's cool, that was it. So then to see this huge thing happen, I was just like, well, this fucking blows. Like, I was like, this is not like, I remember when Chris would finally talk to me, because he was dealing with so much shit. He was like, well, you're just going to get all your records. Like, you're just going to get them for free. And I want to be like, I mean, it's not free. There's a whole bunch of baggage that now comes with this fucking thing.
Yeah.
And like, I was on tour too, like working for like a band. And I was like, now I'm not even home to deal with this shit. Now I'm like, I have all these responsibilities on tour. And now I'm like still trying to deal with like, like there's like lines of people, and I'm like, my phone's blowing up being like, what are we doing about the record? And we did luck out, because some kid at the pressing plant saw everything that was happening and reached out to me and was like, are we changing anything about the labels on the record? And I was like, yeah, man, can you take off the AF logo? It's like, yeah, about 40 of them have it, but like the rest of them we'll take it off. We'll redo the label. I was like, awesome. And then I was like, okay, so what has to be redone? So there's no, the labels got taken care of. The inserts have no mention of AF at all, not even on purpose. It was just like, we didn't add a thank you section on this because we didn't add it on the last one. Yeah. Because it takes up too much room, because it's like, we just have too many lyrics. So it was one of those things where I was just like, nah, I mean, fuck the thank yous. Like, just like get rid of, someone's going to get left out and be like bummed out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, we didn't thank anybody. So there's no like, thank you to AF. So there was no mention of AF on the record, on the insert. So the only thing was the jacket had it. And I got stickers to go over the AF part on the jacket. Nice. And that's when Casey from Iodine reached out, and Casey was like, hey man, I heard about the record. I really want to help out. I want to put out this record. I really like it, but we should wait till next year. Don't put it out now. And I was like, too late, man. I was like, fucking, there's already pre-orders that's been done. I was like, we haven't announced it, but we're doing like a bunch of shows with Frank Turner and Streetlight Manifesto. Our record releases in 3 weeks. If this doesn't work for you, I completely understand. It's fine, but we're releasing this record. It's just coming out. It sucks. It's just like, it's coming out. And I was like, it's only the jackets that actually like say AF on it. And he was like, oh, he's like, I'll get on the phone tomorrow and start ordering jackets. I'll rush order jackets that have the Iodine logo on it. So that's what he did, like he jumped on it and was able to get, so we had jackets for our record release and our tour that just said Iodine on it, and there was no reference on AF on any of it. And we made so many new fans on that thing that they, there were none the wiser, like not even knowing that this thing was supposed to come out on anything else, Yeah. And I think by this point, so many people like, don't even want to fucking like reminisce about AF at all. Yeah. That it's just like, not having that logo on it at all. People just don't even remember that it was associated with any of that, which I'm glad about, because I was just like, well, this fucking sucks.
It's a huge bummer. Yeah.
I'm glad that Casey from Iodine came out and really wanted to help. I mean, they've been great, and they were just like, I always say, like, no one's going to care about your band more than you do. And that's always the case, like you will always work way harder for your band than anybody else will. But Casey and Joe at Iodine have really made me feel like, they care almost as much, because they did so much work to just like really get this done and really get it out. Yeah. So, and it really kind of was like, yeah, I mean, that's why this punk scene is like great and this community is great.
Yeah.
It's because like we really do want to help each other, you know?
Yeah. You guys got 2 shows December with Streetlight Manifesto. You have 1 show announced next year. You guys looking to tour in 2024 or just like kind of just
we
see what
want
happens?
to. I mean, you know, it's just a matter of like what we get, you know? Like I'm not interested anymore in trying to like be like, yeah, let's do a like month-long tour. Let's hit up all these cities and just hope that like the Monday in Duluth is going to be great. It's not. I can tell you right now, the Monday in Duluth will not be great. It just won't be.
It will be fucking terrible.
It never will. It never will. You know. So it's just like I'm not interested in doing that. Luckily, like you know, we were able to do some really cool shit with Streetlight this year, where we were able to do L.A. and San Fran with them, which is like. If we went to LA and San Fran on our own, there's no way those shows would have been nearly as good, you know, like anywhere close. So it was awesome. We got to do that with Streetlight, and we do have 2 more Streetlight shows coming up, the New Jersey one, the Boston one. And then we also are doing a place called Deep Cuts in Medford on December 30th. We're going to be doing our 10 years of Rebuilder show, our eras show, if you will. Because like we were like we didn't want to do another show in Boston this year because we've already done like our main record release and we have the Roadrunner show. But I was like, it feels weird to like ignore our 10-year. We gotta do, and we always used to do a New Year's show every year, but it just kind of got harder and harder. So I was like, all right, well, let's just December 30th lands on a Saturday. Let's just do a cool like small show. But next year we have in February we're doing the Kevin Smith VUSQ cruise. So we're on that because we were in Clerks 3. Our song was in Clerks 3.
Nice.
So that's cool. Hoping to do some more shows around Florida around that time. I mean, I know we really, really do want to go to like the UK and Europe really badly. Mm-hmm. But I just don't know any promoters or booking agents there that like are like, oh yeah, you've never been here? That's awesome. I'm going to give you a bunch of money to come over, right. That just doesn't happen. Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of places we want to go. Like we want to do a New York and like New Jersey, Philly record release weekend. We're calling every show we do now a record release. Yeah, it's like, well, we have a new record out and we're coming here, Yeah.
So, we've not been here since it's been out. So there's the record release Philly show.
We want to do our record release like weekend in Texas and like do a bunch of shows in Texas. Yeah. I mean,
why not?
Yeah. So we are going to, I'm hoping in 2024, we're going to play a whole bunch in new places for sure. It's just a matter of what gets offered. It's funny when some people will message us and they'll be like, you guys should come to like Minnesota. And I'm like, cool. Give us $5,000. We'll come. Right. They don't say anything after that.
It's like, that's not how this works.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you're in your 20s touring around, like you at least, not that it's not fun getting in the van touring. Even now, it still is fun now. I love it. If everyone in my band was like, fuck it, let's just do like 3 weeks headline on our own and just see like how it goes, I would do it. I still love playing music with my friends always in any capacity. That is always going to be what I want to do. So I have no problem doing it. But it's just harder when like everyone in my band is like pretty much married, some have kids and they have jobs, and it's just like, when you're 20 years old, being able to be like, well, fuck all that. I don't have all that. Like, I'm just going to do that. You can't do that now when you have, and it's not like anyone makes money off of this band. It's fine, but it shouldn't cost people money to like be in this band.
Too young to die. Where to go in that
for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song. One good word and I'm gone. Oh, as the story grows, the more I want to know, the more I want to show you. As the story grows, as the story grows. You can create something lasting and great, something passionate and real. And I'll bring in my own good feelings, I'll sing it with meaning. Let's just attack it and never look back. It's wild and fantastic. All together at full power, we're so much better. What's that word I'm missing? If you help me, I'll